Alright, hi. Subcourse QM5184 Edition A, Managing Quality Assurance and Surveillance, Army Institution Professional Development, Army Correspondence Course Program. That's one, identifying laboratory references, review the DA Form 1804, DOD Form 2077, Petroleum Laboratory Simulated Exercise Simplex Procedures. Part A, Petroleum Laboratory Reference Specifications. Specifications clear, concise, accurate description of technical requirements that govern the quality requirements of the products used by the military. Specifications are used to purchase the petroleum product with the manufacturer, monitor the products after it has been purchased, specified by the American Society of Technical Materials, Federal Test Methods Standards, FTSMs. The test method found with the Section 2 and Section 4 of the specification. Military specifications are reasonable, responsible for determining characteristics of the petroleum product. Characteristics are then submitted to the noted community. The responsible for developing specification committee normally consists of members of the engine and equipment developer, petroleum chemical company, reserve development, and Department of Service branch requesting the product. The first developing specification comes from the company refining the product, which feels meets the requirements of the new piece of equipment. They have to sample the development and must be isolated representative amount of to research and development laboratory for processing. Once the product has been tested, all the results accumulated by the actual writing of the specification accomplished. It must include the requirements necessary to ensure that the product will perform as intended, will contain those tests and performed until the normal field conditions. Once it is completed, the proper specification submitted to the approval technical section of the Defensive Fuel Supply Center or the Defensive Logistics Agency, which is responsible for standardization, military preparation, petroleum specifications approved, but is assigned the alphabetical numerical designation and is placed on the reference list of specifications and standards. The type of specifications are military military specification developed and used by the military branch of the Department of Defense. VV, a federal specification developed as an agency of the government and used at least two federal agencies. One, which is civilian, it also used the Department of Defense. And JAN, a joint Army or Navy specification used only by the Army and Navy. Numbering system. Numbering system used to identify the specification three parts. The first beginning with the type of the mill, the federal, VV, and the JAN, Joint Army Navy Operations. The second part considers a single letter of the first word of the nomenclature product listed with the title specifications such as F for fluid or fuel, G for gasoline or grease, L for lubricant, T for turbine fuel, and K for kerosene. Third part consists of number of two or more digits assigned until the development. In some cases, the number is followed by the letter identification, such as mill turbine fuel 5624 first writing, mill turbine fuel 5624A first revision, and mill T 5624B second revision. Special formation. The format generally consists of six main sections. Some of the specifications more have sections. The following main sections are always listed. Section 1, scope of the shade of the type of the product. Section 2, reference materials and applicable products. Section 3, chemical and physical products. Interpretation requirements must be 100% accurate. No deviations are allowed. It's a requirement for the minimum degree or percent. That means the result must be least at what is listed. Maximum list must not be exceeded. Section 4, quality assurance provision of these areas covers the sampling, inspection, and other special test procedures. Section 5, preparation for delivery. These areas cover the marking and the packaging for the shipment. Section 6 shows the notes that cover the intended use and how to order it and whose custodians of the product is and or the pertinent miscellaneous information. Using ASTM or FTSM, the ASTM 051, 05, 02, 05, 03, 05, 04. The ASTM contains the majority test procedure for the petroleum laboratory techniques is published annually in the March. ASTM may be purchased by the American Society of Testing Materials. Federal testing method. FTMs cover these methods adopted with the federal agencies, usually on the federal test method, without adapted to the American Society of Testing Materials. Tested standards are included with the publication. A publication tells you what you must be performed and what test method is to be used. For example, the American Society of Testing Materials and the Federal Testing Methods System, the ASTM and FTMS, given such exact procedures to use when they performing tests, and all petroleum products listed specified equipment and the materials needed to perform the test. Using Military Handbook 200, the handbook provides a general instruction for produces to be used worldwide. The military service the quality surveillance general government-owned fuel and lubricants-related products. Frequently used special test procedure found with the appendices in the event of laboratory test results of being evacuated. The product didn't meet the specification requirements. It's quite possible that the product may be still, according to the Military Handbook 200, the quality surveillance guidelines on fuels and lubricants related in products. Chapter 3, deterioration and use and limits. Evaluation of laboratory analysis. Use the following reference: the applying specification of amendments ASTM and FDMS and Military Handbook 200. Part B, review the DA Form 1804 and DA Form 2077 for completeness and accuracy. When a sample is turned with the Petroleum Laboratory for analysis, senior Petroleum Laboratory technician transfer the information from the DA Form 1804 to the heading of the DA Form 2077 in Figure 2, 1, and 2. Product nomenclature specification sample submitted the amount of product sampled represents manufacturer supplier product standard source of sample taken by and national stock number date sample taken on. Once the information has been transferred to the DA Form 2077, the senior technician then enters the following information: sample number, lab report number, the type of the test to be formed according to specification requirements, date of sample received, date test started, and date start completed. Upon completion of the specified test, the laboratory technician forwarded the results to the senior laboratory technician for the review. The senior laboratory technician reviews the result of the accuracy and entry of the result. The recommendation disposition of the DA Form 2077 were copied and forwarded into the supply of the NCOIC for review approval. Once the Petroleum Laboratory, the NCOIC, has been approved with the result, the disposition recommendation for the type DA Form 2077 is prepared for the approved working copy. The original is kept with the permanent file with enough of the copies to satisfy the interest party and forwarded to the requesting agencies. The DA for 1804 shows the petroleum sample card. The proper considerate completion of the DA Form 2077 cannot be stressed enough, as you know that there are many factors involved with the recommended disposition of petroleum products. Some of these factors are as follows: large items of the products, mission essential requirements, safety, environmental concerns. As senior laboratory NCO, you must take an effort to ensure that the DA Form 2077 was completed, and we have discussed and reviewed the accuracy at the required intervals. Alright, DA 2077 Petroleum Laboratory Analysis Report. Part C, simulated petroleum laboratory exercises. Recommendation for the use of the petroleum product with the primary responsibility non-commissioned air officer in charge or the NCOIC of the laboratory used for the petroleum product is based on the results of the test performed with the technician assigned by the laboratory. Therefore, it is important to ensure the correct test method is utilized and test procedures to strictly follow the evaluation of the new technician laboratory techniques, knowledge of appropriate procedures essentially during the first 90 days of the job, as well as the periodically theater during the initial 90-day period. The correct techniques can be implemented. The deficiencies eliminated. Additional periodic checking after the will serve as reinforcement. Testing errors. If there is possible list of errors that occur with performing the various tests, since the test methods differ greatly, however, the following list contains general areas which should be watched. Procedure is the correct ASTM federal test method standard being used, outlined in the specification. Are all safety procedures being observed? Is the correct sequence being followed? Glassware. Is glassware correct with the test method? Is the clean and serviceable sample preparation when samples can be shaken? What is the correct amount used when the sample prepared amount according to the test method? Was the sample cooled to a specific temperature? Was the sample heated to a specific temperature? Was the sample filtered? Was the sample dehydrated? Chemicals, where the correct chemicals and or indicators used, were the correct amounts used, with the chemical outdated, standardized with the quality as it was filtered, or was super-knotted used, what is substituted was used, and acceptability according to the ASTM procedures. Equipment, bath oven temperatures must be checked before, during, and upon completion of the test. Correct calibrated thermometers must be used. Thermometers must be checked for liquid separation. Heating ranges and times must be stated in text. Apparatus must be cool into the room prior to performing another test. Ensure the correct size of the flame flashpoint, Conradson carbon residue, or CCR. Ensure the correct size of the filter and mill pour. Ensure the removal of air bubbles, API, gravity, and penetration. Ensure the correct relative central figural force, or RCF, revolutions per minute, bottom of the sediment, water, the participation number. Ensure the correct amount of pressure, gum, foam, oxidation stability. Ensure the use of the following. Determine the correction factor if needed, the manometer, barometer, and thermometer. Ensure these procedures as correctly reported. Test evaluation procedures. Explain. Example. 1.7. QM 5184. The NCOIC was we must also ensure the following steps are taken before on the test, given the petroleum sample completed in the tag. DA Form 1804, petroleum sample. Determine the military specification number. The number is found on the sample tag on the sample container. Determine the product, the properties that are found in military specification. Determine the test product lockup, the carbon residue test and specification. Perform the test in conjunction with the applicable ASTM test. You must ensure that all the tests performed with the proper sequence and preserve the test being formed. Ensure that each step is done by the book. Instruction to the technician and correction of when procedures deficiencies are observed. Many types of correction actions may be rerunning the test necessary. You must ensure the procedure must be done by the book for the resulting to have in the meaning of the following actions. Looking at the sample can or tag defined with the specific number. If not on the tag, call the submitting unit and to locate the 91 identification list microfiche to correct the specification number. Check the specification and find the test to be run correct method. Check the appropriate test book, ASTM, and if it roll test methods, procedures to correct the test method to be used. Observe the technician to ensure the use of the method correctly perform the corrective action. If needed, to take the following steps in correct test procedures discovered. Stop the test and identify all the errors. Explain the efficiency of the errors may have on the outcome of the test. Have the technician review the test for procedure. Have the test rerun. The technician will observe the procedure. Lesson 2: Conduct a Quality Surveillance Program. Quality surveillance program. The following responsibility minimum will include as a part of the quality surveillance program: ensure the quality product is supplied with the commercial source for the U.S. Army, Army National Guard, U.S. Army Reserve. Maintain the quality of the Army-owned property, petroleum product containers. Provided the support of the Defensive Logistic Agency, non-reimbursement basis listed to the testing, reporting test results and samples submitted by the Defensive Logistic Agency. Inspect the bulk petroleum pack trucks containers with the frequency established military handbook 200 frequently. Desire to close for servicing with the Department of U.S. APC. The packaged products stored will be inspected 90 days to determine if it was in shelf life. Usability to determine the container condition. Products identified with the shelf life updated to testing will report them to the U.S. APC before submitting the sample to designated labs. When the products identified with the shelf life are updated, these products will not be used in laboratory analysis. Indicate the product needed to be used limits. U.S. APC product deficiency investigation (PDI) message will identify the deficiencies into items and will become kept for 1 year from the date of release. News receipts of the product will be screened for the items reported in these messages. If the received, will report to the USA APC. Figure DOD Form 250, January 90, tank barge and material inspection receiving report. Alright, Part B, the NCOIC must ensure the program applies to the bulk and packaged petroleum supply commercial supply source of the Department of Defense Logistics Agency. Regional time of the contracts procured locally, received from the Army, other military services, DLA, deposits, Canos, U.S. APC, the established sampling schedule, and additionally U.S. APC provided with the sampling activity detailed sample and instructions upon request provided with the submitting activity of the test results, determining additional quality surveillance samples needed requested for testing. To determine if adequate quality surveillance needed with the requested testing, the commander activated the required the sample to perform the ensured the petroleum supply system specialist is assigned to take a procedure of the product sample to maintain the sample log for the sample submitted, indicating the sample number, the sample history, test results, the sample taken with the delivery conveyance for the first 3 separate delivery dates from under the new contract, including local purchaser of all the type of the bulk petroleum product is forward with the supporting laboratory sample tags will be first, second, and third delivery. First samples will contain the product of submitting activity carry must be taken to ensure the containers are made in the usable condition. A petroleum sample tag is completed with attached to each sample submitted with the laboratory testing. Some sample products is forwarded with the laboratory design and within 72 hours after the sample is taken. Stock monitors the aviation fuels using activities usually consumed in a relatively short period of time. The unstable characteristic of the product warning with the special precautions to prevent damage to equipment. Motor aviation heating fuel will be tested in accordance with the military handbook 200. The information for the testing performance requirements instruction general in nature is given in the military handbook 114. Fuse mobility user handbook for fuel will be forwarded supporting the laboratory unless otherwise directed. All dormant and stocks and Army-owned bulk petroleum and rotated with the deterioration owned with the acceptable use of the guidance of the procedures apply worldwide when testing the required results indicate with deterioration trend. Stocks will be rotated and consumed with the products with still and specification limited. The report indicated with the fuel type problems experienced will be sent to the U.S. APC STRGB F2 from New Cumberland, Pennsylvania 1707 5008. Overseas Command will establish the sampling scheduling frequency, establishing military handbook 200 more frequent if desired. The Joint Petroleum Office, if an area for the quality surveillance program is commanded area is within the command area. Military services, each of the command is responsible for establishing and maintaining a quality surveillance program as well as maintaining operating laboratories required to form laboratories AR 736 overseas laboratory support of quality surveillance on petroleum products assigned as responsible for the test facilities and quality surveillance program as the Army oversees type of the operations, operation minimum procedure preferred to 1070 to 1067-1, concept of the petroleum operations section 2 quality surveillance, tanker barge loading and unloading operations referred to 1070 and the AR 715-27. Petroleum Contract Quality Assurance Manual, Section 2, Quality Surveillance Tanker Car Tanker Vehicles Loading and Unloading Operation for the Field Manual 1070 AR 715-27 and Section 2, Quality Surveillance Pipeline Operation for the 1070 AR 715-27 Section 2, Quality Surveillance. Part C, inspection and tanker barge at the pre-loading inspection. In addition to the contractor's inspection, ultimately responsible for the inspection of all the shipping conveyance prior to leading to determine that it's suitable for the intendants of the barge is any vessel within less than 30,000 barrels capacity. Any vessel with 30,000 barrel capacity or more will be treated as a tanker of the Senior Petroleum Laboratory Tank Commission. You must be ensured that the inspection is conducted according to the following: the tankers, verify the tanks are performed, loading of the physical, entering the inspect each of the tank, verifying suitable load with the fresh air pack should be on hand for the use warning. Ensure that each of the tank has been properly gas treated, tested, and certified and qualified personnel. Review vessel loading plans to determine the suitability, verify the bulk heads, and secure the vessel has double valve and separation of the line blanks. Request a sample run and consider the necessary to undersafe with conditions to take in the selection cargo tanks tested with the products to be loaded with the similar solvents to determine the effective upon the corrosiveness of the gum characteristics. Tanker schedule with multiple port loading will have all cargo tanks inspected with the first loading point with the practicable to determine their suitability for scheduled products. Barges. Inspection procedure for the handling tankers will be applied with the barges with the exemption of the stated in the area American Army Regulation 715-27. Physical entry is not required. Inspection and loading of the tanker for tankers. A pre-loading inspection procedure for the tanker. Verify sampling, testing, approved with the shore tanker completed with the prior loading to the vessel. Check loading lines and determine if they're properly isolated, contain no product determinant detrimental into the cargo. Verify loading lines, obtain opening and closing the shore tank. Gauge the monitoring ratings where necessary. Determine the position swing line of the shore tank where applicable, ascending and preventing load any water sludge for the tank at the bottom. Verify the C-suction overboard discharge valve is closed and sealed in the case split of the cargo. Those valves essential to the cargo installation shall be sealed with the serial number seals of their number that's recorded with the shipping documents. Check the cargo first with lines to samples and analysis. Verify the quality of the product moving to the vessel. Verify the sample testing of the vessel cargo tanks during the after loading are done. Loading inspection procedure. Verify the fill with approximately 2,000 to 5,000 barrels is pumped into one cargo tank of the vessel. Request the ship officer to switch the tank to the other tanks to continue loading. If at any time during the unloading the indicated with the contamination loading should be stopped and the cause and extent of the contamination has been determined, verify the samples drawn for the first tank and 30-minute wait and the tests are performed and determine the quality of the product before loading the satisfactory. Therefore, the aviation fuel, turbine fuel, the kerosene is being loaded with the loading and inspection procedure with the Compass Truck Instruction 3121-3 of March 1977 and the Compass Truck 3121-3 Series Change 1 January 1978 project. Subject safe handling of the jet fuels and kerosene allowed. Prior to loading and all the water removed from the vessel pipeline, the cargo tank of the verified initial loading rate does not exceed 3 feet per second or 1,500 barrels per hour through the 12-inch line. The loading lines of the cargo tank used the discharge outline has been covered by at least of the 3 product layer after normal loading of the rate be resumed. Verify the loading of the 3 feet per second is applied with the flow of each of the tank. Verify the ullage, water soundings, temperature samples, including the first sample, are not taken any cargo until at least 30 minutes after the flow of the tank has been ceased. In the meantime, loading other tanks may proceed. Inspecting loading procedure, barges, preloading, and the procedure. The QSR ensures the quality surveillance report ensures the following actions have been taken prior to approval of loading: vessel condition, vessel tank inspection, vessel tank internal rust, vessel loading plans, multiple port inspection, quality, quantity, determination of load, inspection procedure for barges. Verify the sample that's drawn for the tank after 30 minutes test and performed to determine if the quality of the product is being loaded with the satisfactory. Verify the samples test and contents vessel cargo tanks during the after loading and performed to determine the product quality. Monitoring post-loading procedure for the tanker or the barge. Witness sample the vessel cargo tank is monitored. The cargo tank gauging the temperature determination as well as the time the permit water cuts. If possible, the water is to be stripped ashore before the tanker is released. Determine the quantity of the fuel, but the quantity of the product of the ship will be determined by the shore. The tank gauges. Witness shore tank gauge opening and closing. Determine the shore on the vessel. The new quantity shipped at the shore. Lost gains in tanker barges qualities will be based on using the storage tank. The report investigating the quantity discrepancy excess of the 0.5% to release the vessel. Verify the contractor maintained the retained sample for the period designated. Inspecting documentation covering the tanker, the barging, loading. Verify the Department of Defense Form 251 tanker barge and material inspection review receiving report continuation sheet, utilage, inage, outage report and completed. If the product is more than one tank, the test is applicable to in each tank in separate columns. Had the tank number to the date of the product in which is approved the quantity of the load of each of the tank indicated with the appropriate column. Verify the distribution documentations that made in the IAW DFARS Appendix 5F Part 7. Inspection, discharge procedure of the tank barges. Verify the numbers and seals used to split the cargo insulation. See the suction valve, discharge the valves, and before then after the discharge. Verify all levels of samples are taken with each of the cargo before the visual of each on the sample. The case of the split cargo differential products adjacent with the compartment will be tested necessary to determine the commingling of has occurred. Verify that some samples composited with required retaining sample to maintain with the IAWAR 715-27 given the approval of the discharge to proceed. The preliminary examination indicates the cargo and order of the examination indicates that the cargo is not suitable to contract administrative with the quality assurance other than further instruction. Verify that the gauge and temperature water surroundings have been taken on record with the figures will be used to compare the obtained loading point for the indication of quality and quantity deficiencies. Maintain close surveillance for the product being moved with the vessel. The shore tanks check the discharge line, witness opening and closing of the shore tank gauge. Verify quantities received and based on the shore tank gauge. Examine the barge cargo and determine the government-owned product reserve on board if ROB. If the significant quantity of the product remains silent, retain the copy of the dry tank cargo contained appreciable amount of the product will be gauged and the amount of the present to determine if it established as estimates will be made and if possible to obtain accurate figures. An appreciable amount of the product would normally be a quantity as estimated over 15 barrels on a tanker or 5 barrels on a barge. Verify all the attempts have been made in the strip of the cargo tank of the product. Ensure the quantities is estimated on the reserve on board for the cargo tank number, the reason for the incomplete discharge or other information the discharge report. Department of Defense 251, the barge discharge, the notation whether the barge or shore pumps were discharged for the cargo will be noted. Record shipping and handling loss gains over the 0.5% discharge destination of the Department of Defense 251 indicated the cause of loss of gains, fullest extent possible. Verify the required inspection documents are available, completed VA Form 251, utilage and report other documentation that may be required by the AAW Department of Defense 440.25 DoD bulk petroleum product natural gas coal volumes 1 through 4 distributed inspections IAW DE Defensive Energy Supply Center directives and local instruction. Part D, inspection tanker cars and tanker trucks prior to the loading. Pre-loading the inspection, ensure that the personnel performing the following inspection: tanker truck with a cleanliness integral, including the domes, must be free of loose dirt, scales, dirt, and there must be dry-free, water-free inspection. Tanker car truck suitability to receive the product. Make sure the product is last carried out the same product to be loaded. If the product is different with the tank of the truck, should be processed by the AAW table 5 Military Handbook 2000. Look for any foreign objects such as the tools, bolts, old seals that may have fallen into the tank. Objects should be removed by authorized personnel. Verify the outlet and safety valves are properly sealed with an inoperable operation. Verify the dome covers the bottom outlet valves and open with the bottom outlet caps. The tank cars remove all the residual from the previous cargo terrain. Do not allow the residuals drain of the ground. Use an approved container in the inspect outlet valves. If be found with a defective, ensure the replace and repair prior to loading. Monitoring loading in tanker cars and tanker trucks. Ensure that the personnel performing the following: verify the outlet valve and caps are replaced by the filling. Verify all the safety precautions adhere but they observed during the loading. Verify the preventive maintenance measures to be taken with the top loading facility to prevent free falling of the splashing during the loading operations. Verify discharge loading in the arm. The fill pipe is inserted with it. They reach the bottom of the tank. Verify the fill rate is slow until the hose fill pipe is covered at least 6 inches of the product. Verify the domes and unloading valves is case of the tank of the cars and all opening of the case of the tank trucks and are secured, sealed, and serially numbered seals immediately after filing. Inspection tanker load and tanker cars and tanker trucks. Ensure that the personnel performing to verify each of the tanker car and tanker truck is sampled and tested. AEW Military Handbook. Under Table 3, the completion of loading, the verify, and the product verify. All the products are visually examined. The check for the water sediment. Verify the contracting meets in the record of the test results. Verify the quality of the product. The loaded quantity shipped with the tank will be determined by the AEW contract provisions. The quantity should be tanked with the determined with the truck calibration table. The net weight. Product loaded by usable, probable, calibrated meter. Verify the contractor maintain the retained samples for the prior period designated for the AR 715, Section 27, Section 6. Inspection documentation. Verify the corrected API gravity provided with the contractor is noted with locating documents. Inspected prepared documentation for accuracy and completeness. Part E, performing the quality surveillance of pipeline movement. The procedure to provide the movement of the product belonging to the accepted government, except for the movement of the contractor-owned operated product with quality is verified after the receipt of the terminal and product delivery to the government. Witness and sampling full specification of the FOB origin designation contracting of the to ensure the product tender conforms with the applicable requirements. The verify that only the hard cards transferred into the FOB accepted tanks unless specification exemptions authorize FOB and destination deliveries. Witness sampling testing of the receipt tanks prior to the use to verify the sampling testing provided with the AIWAR 715-27 Table 6. Verify the cutting of the batches pipelines receiving the tank of the IAW provision tariff and operating agreements. Maintain surveillance over the pipeline operation during the transfer to another carrier and key points of the system during the movement. Examine the record to pump rates and progress tenders. Extend the transmission gravity and color determination. Witness cutting the tenders batches in the pipeline. Receiving the tank. Verify the quality of the product in the pipeline. Receiving the tank after receiving the tender of the batch. To check the calculation for the net quantity. Is investigated report any quantity discretion in excess of 0.3%. Maintain fertility procedure using the career and the protected condition pipeline interior. Verify the corrosion inhibitors are added to the product and instead intended for the military use for those approved of the product. Evaluated the trend, make sure it would require with the procedure evaluation, including suitable for recording data of the sample calculation involved with the contained with the AR 715-27 Table 4 and 5. Maintain a liaison activity receiving the product of the pipeline, rendering technical assistance as required. Verify the quantities moved by approved by the meters of the gauges at the FOB point. Lesson 3, supervised quality surveillance testing. Alright, Lesson 3, supervised quality surveillance testing. Part A, quality surveillance testing. Quality surveillance for your senior laboratory NCO will of having thorough knowledge of visual analytical testing methods as well as the cause of indication of contamination fibrous material. Looking at the clear quart glass container, fibrous material will appear to the piece of the thread-like material similar to the fiberglass threads suspended in product lying at the bottom of the container. Sediment. This will appear with the dust and powder flakes and granule material. The total sediment includes both organic and inorganic material. You may categorize the sediment either by the course of the fine category sediment which easily settles out of the product can be removed. The filtration ordinarily coarse sediment refers to particle of 10 micron sizes or larger. Title of the type of sediment quite visible in clear glass container. Fine sediment that is smaller than 10 microns. It's a limited degree. This type of the sediment can be removed with the settling of the filtration. Finally, particles are not visible to the naked eye as separate distinct particles. However, the particle will scatter light and may appear with the pinpoint flashes of the light, like shimmer and dimer as slightly hazy and sample. Microbiological growth. The growth consists of the living organisms following the fuel-water interface. The organism will include protozoa, fungus, bacteria that normally have been brown, black, or gray color, with addition with astringent fibrous-like appearance, but we observe the clear glass container removal of the water bottoms and will prevent this problem. Water of the fuel may be either fresh or salty when they may present with either dissolved and trained with the free water dissolved. The water has been absorbed with the fuel, not visible during the sample inspection. Ambient temperature when the fuel is cool, but the dissolved between becomes entrained with appears as a cloud. Dissolved water is only fresh water and cannot be removed except for by freezing. Fuel system icing inhibitor or FSII. Is added to the jet fuel to prevent dissolved water from freezing. In trained water, the emulsion water is in the fuel and is visible in cloud. Extrained with water can be removed with the filterization. Free water, the water may appear to the form of the cloud emulsion droplets, a larger amount at the bottom of the tank. Other containment free water is normally readily detectable about visual sample inspection settles out in storages within 24 hours. Commingling is an accident mixing of the products that usually occurs when too much interface mixture is pumped into the storage tanks. Upon settling of the contaminations will usually stratify into layers in the tank. Part B, testing procedure. API gravity test, ASTM-T 287 scope. The test and the method cover the determination between the glass hydrometer of the API gravity of the crude petroleum products normally handled with liquid as having the read vapor pressure of 26 psi or less. Summary to test the API gravity reads above observing the free floating the API hydrometer, noting the graduation near the apparent intersection of the horizontal plane surface of the liquid with the vertical scale of the hydrometer, observing the temperature of the sample. Significantly accurately determine the gravity of the petroleum and the products necessary for the conversion, measured with the volumes in standard with the temperature of 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Also the gravity of the factor governing the quality of the crude oils. However, the gravity of the petroleum product is an uncertain indication of its quality. Visual color. The scope is the test of the method is covered with the visual determination of the color of the wide variety of the petroleum product with the lubrication oil, heating oils, diesel fuel oils, automotive gasolines, aviation gasolines. Summary of the test: the liquid sample is placed with a clear glass container with the visual color observed. Significant test: the visual color of the petroleum product is quick, and the identification of the product can change in the product with the may indicate the contamination deterioration. A clear or bright test visual of the scope. The method covers the pass and fail prior to determining the presence of free water and solid particles, contamination, distilled fuels. Summary test: the sample of the fuel was swirled with a clean glass jar. Examined the visual sediment of the water and the drops below the vortex formed with the swirling and visual inspection clarity is also performed. Significance: the procedure provides a vapor of the non-quantitative method to check the quantity contamination in distillated fuels. Distillation and ASTM-D 86. The method covers the distillation of motor gasoline, aviation turbine, special boiling point spirits, naphtha, white spirit, kerosene, gas oils, distilled fuels, oils, similar petroleum products. Summary: the method of a 100 milliliter sample is distillated under prescribed conditions which are appropriate to its nature. System observation thermometer reading the volumes the condensated are made with it, and from these data, this result of the test is calculated report. Significant test: distillation volatility characteristics of petroleum products indicated with the performance intended for the application. Petroleum product specifications generally include the distillation limits to ensure the product of the suitable volatility performance. The empirical results obtained with the use of the distillation method having been found correlated with automotive equipment performance factors with other characteristics of petroleum product related to volatility. Definitions: initial boiling point: the thermometer reading of it is observed with the instant with the first drop of the condensated falls over the lower end of the condenser tube. End point or final boiling point: the maximum thermometer reading obtained during the testing usually occurred with the evaporation of all the liquid from the bottom of the flask. Percentage required. Percentage recovered: the volume millimeters of the condensate with the preserve with receiving the graduated connecting the simultaneously the thermometer reading. Percent recovered: the maximum percent recovered, the percent lost, the 100% minus 100 minus the total percent recovered, the percent residual, the volume of the millimeters residual. Procedure: IAW, the American Society of Testing Materials, method D6086, distillation petroleum products. The read vapor pressure ASTM 323 scope. The test method covered the determination vapor pressure for the gasoline is applicable to other volatile petroleum products except for the liquefied petroleum gasolation oxygenated fuels. Similar methods: the gasoline chamber, the vapor pressure, the apparatus is filled with the chilled sample connected with the air bath at 100 degrees Fahrenheit. The apparatus is immersed in the bath at 100 degrees Fahrenheit and shaken with periodically until the constant pressure is observed with the gauge attached with the apparatus. The gauge reading suitability corrected with the read vapor pressure. Significant test: the read vapor pressure is used to predict this vapor locking tendency of the fuel and vapor fuel system control with some of the air to limit the air pollution with evaporating hydrocarbons will be dispensed. Flash and fire point ASTM D39 and D29. The method will cover the flash points of the petroleum products at all ranges. Summary: the test of the cup is a specified level within the sample. The temperature of the sample is increased with readily applied at the first and slow rate with the constant rate of the flash flash of the point approach with the specified intervals. Simultaneous flame is passed across the cup. The lowest temperature at which the application flame causes the vapors above the ignition not to burn continuously. It is taken as a flash point. Significant test. Flash point measured the tendency and sample under the flammable mixture air under controlled laboratory conditions. Flash point is used in the shipping and safety regulations to determine the flammable combustible materials. Flash point can be an indicated possible presence of a highly volatile materials, relatively non-volatile material, and fire point measures characteristic samples supporting combustion difference. The DA differences. D92 Cleveland open cup is used to determine the flash point. Fire points of the petroleum oil lubricants products, except for the fuel oil and products, have been open cut flash points of 175 degrees Fahrenheit. D93 the Penske Martin is usually mainly a test of flash and fuel for fuel oils. D56 is used for liquids to flash below the 220 degrees Fahrenheit. All right, cloud point, the ASTM D2500 scope. The scope is the test method only covers only the petroleum oil that transports in layers of 38 millimeters or 1.5 inch in thickness, with the cloud point below 49 degrees Celsius or 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Summary method: the sample is cooled at a specified rate, examined periodically the temperature and the hazardness first observed with the bottom of the test jar is recorded with the cloud point. Significant test: the cloud of the power point petroleum oil is indicated with the lowest temperature in its utility and for certain application. 4 point, the ASTM D897. The test method is intended for the use of the petroleum point, petroleum oil. Summary of the method: after preliminary heating of the sample is cooled, the specified rate is examined at the intervals of 3 degrees Celsius for flow. Lowest temperature at which the movement of the oils is observed and recorded was 4 point. Significant test: the pour point is the petroleum as an index for the lowest temperature of which the utility of certain applications. Freeze point, ASTM D2386 scope. The test method covered the determination of temperature below the solid hydrocarbon crystals may form in turbine reciprocating engines fuels. Summary method: is sample the aviation fuel is cooled with the crystal with the hydrocarbon formed with the temperature at which the crystals disappear with the fuel temperature is allowed to rise to the record of the freezing temperature freezing point. Significant test: the freezing point of the aviation fuel provides with guidance as the lowest temperature and the utility for certain applications. Kinematic viscosity, ASTM D444 44.5. The scope: the test method covers the determination kinetic viscosity limit liquid petroleum product both the transporting uptake, measuring the time of the volume of the liquid with the flow under the gravity through the calibrated glass caliper viscosity meter. The times are measured with the second fixed volume of the liquid to flow under the gravity through the calipery and calibrated viscometer under the reproducible drying head at loose, closely controlled temperature. Significance: many of the petroleum products are well known as petroleum materials as used as lubricants for the things of the bearings and gears and compressor cylinders. Hydraulic equipment and prior operation equipment depends on the proper viscosity of the liquid. Thus, accurate measurement of the viscosity is essential to many of the product specifications. Copper corrosion, ASTM D130 scope. The method covers the detection corrosivity of copper of the aviation gasoline, aviation turbine fuel, automotive gasoline, natural gasoline, and any other hydrocarbons having a read vapor pressure no greater than 18 psi. Some of the polished copper strip is immersed with a given quantity of the sample heated with the temperature. After the time the characteristic material being tested at the end of the period of the copper strip is removed and washed and compared with the ASTM copper strip corrosion standard. The significant of the crude petroleum contains the sulfur compounds, much of which were removed from the refining. However, the sulfur compounds remains the petroleum product. Some can have the corroding action of the various metals corrosive and is not necessarily related directly to the total sulfur content. Water reaction, aviation fuels, ASTM D1094. The scope of the test method covered the determination presence of the water miscible components of the aviation gasoline turbine fuels and the effect of the components of the fuel water interface. Summary: a sample of the fuel is shaken using standardized techniques as the room temperature is phosphate buffer solution. The changing of the volume aqueous layer and the appearance of the interface, the degree of the separation of the two phases taken with the water reaction and fuel. Alright, water extraction. The aviation fuel using the technique reveals the presence of relatively large quantities of the partial water-soluble contamination, such as surfactants, contamination that affect the interface, clearly emulsions of water fuel layers that are apt to disalarm the filter, separate quickly and allow the free water particles to pass. The change of the volume aqueous layer indicate the water-soluble materials such as alcohol and ethers are present. Particular Contamination Aviation Turbine Fuels ASTM D2276. The test method describes the procedure for the evaluation, particular examination, aviation turbine fuel summary. Known volume of the fuel is filtered through the pre-weighted test membrane filter, and the increase of the membrane filter weight determined after the washing and the drying. The total contamination determined from the increase of the weight of the test membrane filter relative to the control membrane filter. Significant test method provides a gravimetric measurement of the particular matter present within the aviation turbine fuels, which must be minimized to avoid filter plugging and other operational problems. Existing gum in the fuel jet evaporation scope. The method to cover the determination of existing gum in the motor of the gasoline aircraft fuels at the time of the test. The measured quantity of the fuel evaporated under the conditions of the temperature flowing air of the stream of the aviation gasoline aircraft turbine, resulting residue weighing the reported milligrams per 100 milliliters of motor gasoline. Residual weighted before after extraction of the nepentine and result as reported milligrams per 100 meters. The true significance of the test and method determining the gum in the motor gasoline is not firmly established. All right, water separation characteristics. Micro WSIM ASTM 3948. The method provides a rapid portable means for field and laboratory use of the rate of the availability of aviation turbines released in the train and emulsified water wouldn't pass through the fiberglass column. The material intended to measure the water separation characteristics of the fuel produced after it has been blended with additives delivered to this point. Similarly, the fuel sample is emulsified with the water in a syringe using the high-speed mixer. The emulsion is expelled with the syringe and programmed rated with the standard fiberglass column. The effluent analyzed with the uncoalesced water by late transmission measurement. High ratings indicate the water is easily coalesced, and therefore the fuel is relatively free of significant material. Significant the test provides a measurement of the presence of the surface of the active substance. Aviation turbine fuels. It can detect carrying off the trace of the refinery training residual fuel as product. You can also detect surface activity substances added to the pick or by fueling during the handling of the point of the production to be point of use. Alright, your fuel system, ice inhibitor and hydrocarbon fuels are FSI, the Federal Test Method F53274. Measure determination 0.05 to 0.2 volume percentage of ethanol glycomonomethanol ether or EGME, diethyl glycomonomethyl ether or DIGME, and hydrofuels. The two compounds are improved with the fuel system icing inhibitor, FSI, with the hydrocarbon fuels, and the method of the fuel system ice inhibiting will denote that the ethanol glycomonomethyl ether and the diethanol glycomethanol ether test consists of removing the fuel system ice inhibitor from the hydrocarbon fuel extraction. The water solution is also allowed to react to excess standard potassium diachromate solution. The presence of the sulfuric acid in excess of the diachromate is determined iodometrically. Significance: the fuel system ice inhibitor is added to the aviation turbine fuel for the prevents dissolved water from freezing at high altitudes about 8,500 feet. If the fuel system ice inhibitor percentage by the volume is too low, deterioration, loss of additive due to the contamination with water. Alright, Part C, care and use of the balancing. When tasks is constantly performed, the laboratory technician therefore must ensure the technicians know how to correct balance and how to use it. Erroneous weight of the improper balance result the fault of the results with the performing laboratory results. The senior petroleum laboratory NCO is it your responsibility to ensure that all the balances services are serviceable and properly calibrated at all times. Significance weighing is necessary of the part or of the running the test to obtain the results of making solutions. Type of the balance: analytical balance. Use of the precision weighing of the to 1/10,000th of a gram of the smallest quantity. Some features of the single pane analytical balance include easy to read display, separate sealed keys, automatic calibration. However, trip balance but precision balance and using a weighing the substance in the petroleum laboratory should be used. The responsible flat and level surface at the setting of the very very near balance should be attained with the beam and the tear of the poise at all the way to the left torsion of the triple beam balance. Using the weight of the when precise weighing is not required. For instance, would be used to determine the appropriate weight of the tubes in centrifuged. Use of the balance and the use of the analytical balance. Press the tear of the balance of the zero to display. Place the sheet of the quantitative filter paper on the pan of the balance. Use a clean or dry spatula to carefully measure the required quantity of the solute of calculated to read the display weight after the display is stable, indicated with no motion. The symbol switches are on and off. Record the weight of the solute for the reference. Using the Harvard trip balance, zero the balance and adjust the knurled zero knobs at the right end of the beam if scale is not balanced, and at the zero when set up the working space where the substance. Place the substance and weight on the left platform of the balance. Move the poise to a position will restore the scale to the balance. Lower poise is moved to the right until the first notch is reached for the cause of the right of the platform to scale to drop. The lower poise is then moved back to one notch, which will cause the right platform to rise again. The upper poise is then moved to the right and scale with the bought to the balance. Read the result directly from the beams, adding the amount indicated with the lower and upper beams. Record the weight of the solute reference. Using the triple beam balance when precise weighing is not required, level 0 balance. Select the reasonable flat and level surface on which to use the balance adjustment knob at the left end to the end of the beam to obtain the zero balance. When substance, place the substance to weight on the load receiving the platform, moving the center poise at the first notch when it causes the beam pointer to drop, then move it back to one notch so the pointer will rise. Read the results as the weight, substituting, adding the values indicating with the poise. Care of the balance. Balances should be reasonably flat and level surfaces when transporting balances. Take care that they do not receive any of the sharp blows and unnecessary rough treatment. The balances should be kept clean at all times, and moisture should not be allowed to accumulate in the vicinity of the balance. Analytical balances refer to the manufacturer manual specific cleaning procedures. Harvard and triple beam balances. Scales should be never lubricated or oiled. Should the bearings become dirty, attempting to clean them off or blowing out with a air blast. Occasionally a magnet face will need to be dusted. This may be done by inserting a piece of adhesive tape into the magnet slot and pressing it against the magnet face to pick up the attractive material to prevent it with interfering with the movement of the damper vane. Lesson 4: Conduct, Quality, and Insurance. Part A: Contamination. Type A: Contamination product is contained with some of the material normally presented with the water, solids, and other grades of petroleum products, such as mixtures modified with the quality of the product, the permanently and or undesirable characteristics of contamination usually result through careless, accident, inability to neglect, follow procedure through sabotage. Water may be fresh or salt water when present with the free water with the fresh water can be present as either free or dissolved water. Example of the water contamination: bulk storage tanks with conical flat and dome roof tanks will become contaminated with rainstone moisture. Atmosphere water will become bottom pressure in the tank in line with the floating roof tanks, usually contaminated when the roof of the seating becomes unserviceable. Leaks, or if the roof of the drain is also collected with the water. Roof to the tank of the drain off between the clog. The water contamination of the pipeline can occur with the line flush pumped into the line with the water collects in the low spots along the tank line. The tankers can be contaminated if the hatches are left open. The rain of the waves get into the tank affect the water contamination. If the product contaminated with the water, sludge will form. The fuel will not burn efficiently the water, and the fuel can be freezed with the causing rusting in the storage container. It will support the biological growth. The indication of water contamination: appearance of the lube oils will be milky, light, distillated, will appear with a hazy and cloud with the water distillation. Bottom sediment. The water test will show the presence of the water product. Will start the foaming approximately 200 degrees Fahrenheit when the beginning test with a flash of fire points. Recommendation: use the product should be used. The filter separated to remove the water, and it can be dehydrated heating. In this case, the lubricated oil is usually sent to the Defensive Reutilization Marketing Office. Solid contamination: coarse sediments which are larger than 10 microns, and the fine sediment which is smaller than 10 microns in size. Definition: any more than form of the sediment must clog the filters, injection nozzle, the aircraft fuel system. The abrasive of the action of the sediment may cause the damage to finely tunable the fuel system components. Large particles usually indicate the failure to somewhere in the fuel system. Examples: rust product, the corrosion, brittle, the powder, readily insoluble waters usually caused by the water's presence in the system. If from empty containers, only ones that have been put in surface rust can be removed with passing through from the fuel fuel through the filter separately. Middle scale, the magnetic product from the iron and the steel during the manufacturing process is blue, black in color and brittle, and is usually found with new tanks and pipes and first placed in service and can be removed. The filtering usually with no settle out of the fuel bonds with the present with the fuel, and usually caused by warning impellers into the fuel pump. Linen and fibers caused by the taper and the filter, cartridge of cloth, cotton waste, or some fibers cannot be detected without microscope examination. Can usually be corrected with the changing of the filter elements. However, this is sometimes caused with the new filters are placed in the service. Effect of the solid contamination include clogged fuel filters and lines, increased wear parts, and caused by abrasion. Increase the maintenance recommendation for use and allow fuel to settle and pass product through the filter separator if the solids are removed through the intended purpose. Commingling is an accident mixing the two or more products, so they can be serious and minor, probably depending on the product which was contaminated, type of the contaminating product, degree of the contamination. The effects of commingling varies from each of the product. However, usually there is a change of the product color and specification. Critical tests that normally effectively included the vapor read test, flashpoint, and distillation indication commingling can be detected by the colors and change of the product of the API gravity. Both the visual colors and the gravity of the fuel should be checked on a regular basis and store location. The recommendation for the use after two products have been commingled. The laboratory has been tested. The fuel's commingled product is blended with it as a one grade and product return the properties of the using and limit the original product and downgrade the product. Most products can be easily recovered, assuming enough storage space within the tanks that for required blending of the blending should only be done to meet these limits. The product should be used as soon as possible after it has been certified as meeting limits by the laboratory. Alright, deterioration refers to changes occurring while the product lies in storage. Deterioration becomes marked as the product ages, so much as the darkening of the product initiated with the hardened, hastened with the stored conditions, and normally noticed with the personal handling of the product. Deterioration product may not be visible. Effective color, appearance of discovery, deterioration depending on the adequate quality surveillance program. Most common forms of deterioration are weather, gumming, formation, or loss of additives. Weathering is due to the evaporation of more of the volatile components referred to the light ends of the product is most noticeable with light products such as gasoline. Rate of the evaporation increases the marks with the first rise in temperature. Storage tanks are vented into the air, increase the evaporation pressure of the for successive vapors to escape the atmosphere through the tank vents, thus allowing the vapor loss. Lowering the temperature decreases the vaporization, lower the tank the pressure, causing the fresh air outside of the air to draw with the tank throughout the vents. The operation referred to the breathing. Breathing may be controlled by the pressure vacuum release of the valves on the tank. Identification, deterioration, weather, loss, volatile indication of the low read vapor pressure or high initial boiling point. Effects report and starting the engine cold weather. Recommendation for the use of blending on grade product as the predetermined ratio is usually as soon as possible. Gum and formation of most common troubleshoot some result of the deterioration suffered by the internal combustion engine fuels is caused by the presence of unsaturated hydrocarbons, presence of the oxygen undergoing chemical changes, polymerization, unsaturated hydrocarbon, the process of uniting light olefins to hydrocarbons and high molecular weight. Chemical changes to produce of the gummy material. Gummy materials insoluble or difficult to vaporize, clog jet in the fuel lines and deposit on valves and causing incomplete combustion, causing increased maintenance after the gummy material forms. A resinous material forms that settle on the walls and bottoms of the containers is difficult to remove. Oxidization inhibitors do not offer permanent protection. Indication of gum's formation darkened with JP4 haze, grays, cast fuel. Oil gum is indication of the contamination with a higher product of dry gum. Indication of deterioration. Recommendation for the use of end with a greater product for the use of the series as soon as possible. Loss of additives such as the tetraethyl lead color of the fuel system, ice inhibitor, or the oxidation inhibitor, and means the loss of performance of the management of the fuel. The tetraethyl lead loss and causes long-term storage and exposure to light. Effect of the performance is reduced power and engine knock. An indication of loss that has due to the information that lead of low octane rating performance for number of recommendations for the use imperceptible not settle pass through this filter separator. It means the engine test all their limits to use it as soon as possible. If filtering fails, blended on the grain product, downgraded to meet the tetraethyl lead requirements as soon as possible. Lost color is used in long-term storage, exposure to light effective physiological effect on the consumer about the quality of the fuel, management of the fuel during the interface, recommendation for the use of the applicable product means for the test requirements, fuel system, ice inhibitor, loss caused by the extraction of water while the fuel is in storage. The loss effective freezing point of the water in the fuel, the ice can be formed with the fuel causing the clogging that causes the engaging engine to flame out. Install the additive included the low fuel system ice inhibitor. Contact can be corrected by blending an on-grade product with the re-injection of the fuel system ice inhibitor. Oxidation inhibitors are found in light distillation additives is lost usually due to manufacturer mistake. Incompatibility additives affect the loss of the additive, the gum formation in the fuel, which will be indicated with the gum test, corrected by the blending and the using as soon as possible. Part B, reclamation and disposition procedure. Reclamation and disposition procedures include the identification of the problem product contaminated or deteriorated, the cause of the problem, then procedure to correct it. Downgrade is a sign of use for the lower grade of the product would normally be employed, but the provided means the requirements for the low grade of the product. The operation could result in the severe short of the product with the time. The grade may necessity of segregation, carefully planning with supervision of the issue, and may cause the increased maintenance. Blended, mixing of a large quantity of the same product with a higher quality. This involves the equipment storage facility not always readily available. This may cause a decrease in proper storage capacity or depot, therefore inefficiencies of operation will reduce. Recirculation, cleaning of the product, passing it through the filter and separators, dehydration, removing the water by a filtering or setting process, inhibitor, icing, restoring the additives that are missing, disposition procedure. Defensive logistic agency owned if the product does not meet the specific limitation immediately storage point. The active having a physical possession of the product will contact the following activity for the decision of the disposition or use. Defensive Fuel Supply Center, Tent DFSC TB, Cameron Station, Alexandria, Virginia 223114. When an Army-owned product does not meet use of limits at the location following the activity, contact with disposition instruction. The U.S. Army General Material Petroleum Activity Tent STSGP Feet F2, New Cumberland, Pennsylvania 17070. The request for the disposition instruction include the following information: specific graduation, quantity, location, date of the receipt, the name of the manufacturer, contract number, the batch number, qualification number, date of the manufacturer, type of the container, standard storage, the accountability military department, need of the replacement product, detailed laboratory test results, recommended alternative disposition recovery measure, and last return for the Defensive Reutilization Marketing Office. Part C, tanker barge or operational quality assurance. Defensive Fuel Supply Center furnishes the advanced information on the amended and pending of the lifting of the petroleum product of tanker car barges and agents. Any changes that may occur, the quality assurance reliance will maintain liaison with the refinery terminal and the MSC and the visual vessel's agent barging company to determine more the definite ETAs. The quality assurance and surveillance will promptly report with the delays encountered during the tanker, the barge, or operation of the Defensive Fuel Supply Center. Inspecting the tankers with the inert the gas system. The QAR of the first loading with a part of the inspection of the entire gas-free IGS tanker. The suitable load with the IGS tanker of the inspection final. For the safety of the QAR, subsequent loading parts that cannot be entered with the cargo tanks, cargo types, preparation, cleaning to requirements table 1, DLAM 4155.1 must be met at all loading. Tankers will arrive at the first loading port of the gasoline to permit the QAR entry and the inspection with all the products prior to the discharge product utilage to be found with the sonic probe with water to be checked with using the tape in the bob. After the discharge, dry the tank must be performed using the tape in the bob to product the paste. The visual examination of the tanks is not possible. Inspection procedure for loading and tanking of the barge. Product inspection. The ensure the subsequent procedure filed with the ensure the product of the quality of the storage tank. All lines should be loaded with the QAR will witness the appropriate verification and testing of the product loaded. Prior to the loading, all lines will be dropped in water and removed from the cargo tank to check for the cargo layout with loading pans. The QAR and the master vessels represented must concur with the cargo and load layout with loading plan. Check the ship logs and nature of the provision of the cargo lease. Check the loading lines to ensure the properly isolated do not contain the product detrimental to the cargo. Wetness opening and the closing of the shorting tanks. The QAR independently compute the quantity of the product loaded on the vessel using the shore tank gauges. Close and seal the suction overboard of discharge valves and prior to the lead. Ensure the vessel is grounded to the dock. All lines will be empty before and after loading and discharge operation. Prepare the cargo tanks have been poured in accordance with the table 2 DLMA 4155 4155-1. The quality ensures that the necessary safety precautions have been taken and each of the cargo tank has been properly gas-free and testing certified by qualified personnel. The QAM is personally enter inspection each of the tank with verified suitable load. When the tanks have been partially filled with the previous lifting points of the B topped off, the product should be sampled and tested and deemed necessary by the quality assurance resurveillance prior to the top of the topping off. Cargoes will have been loaded with the previous report and the adjacent of the tanks loaded with the shell be sampled. The sample should then be held with the testing event and loading difficulty to indicate the possible cargo commingling. All products aboard the vessel, including the bunker tanks, shall be gauged before and after loading unless other directive considering necessary for the quality assurance that will require the result of the IAW paragraph 443 DLMA 4155.1. In the case of split cargoes, QAR will ensure that the vessel is structurally suitable to handling two or more grades of the product simultaneously without contamination. Bulks are secured and valves are such that the valves will be lashed and sealed properly positioned to ensure against misuse. Vessel will not be expedited with the expense of the quality of the quantity of the determination condition of the contribution delays in part which increase the loading of the discharge time will be recorded on the Department of Defense Form 251, Figure 41. During loading and inspection, initial loading will be at the rate of not excessive of 3 feet per second through the loading lines into the cargo tanks until the discharge outlet has been covered by 3 feet of the product. Then normally loading by the resumed. Start loading displays a sufficient amount of the product through the pipeline system into the one cargo tank of the vessel. Then switch to the other tanks. Then continue loading. The first tank will be sampled and tested to ensure the quality product is satisfactory. If at any time there is an indication of contamination, operation will be stopped until the cause is extended. Determine, check the analyzed and dock headers sampled to verify the quality of the product. Moving the vessel sample will be taken under the flow of the condition sample testing the vessel code cargo during the and after the wheeling of the done IAW table 6 DLAM 4155.1. Figure 141 shows the Department of Defense Form 250-1 tanker barge and material inspection receiving report. After loading inspection of the QA or the personal witness the sample gauging temperature determination water cuts of the vessel tank after loading when it's safe. The minimum of 30 minutes after loading the tank has been stopped. Calculate the cargo quantity vessel calibration tables of comparison show of the tank quantity difference between the ship and the storage. Shared figures would extend 0.5% with the investigated by the QA or prior to at least with the vessel attention with the Department of Defense Form 251. The QA provided with the information contracted with the completion of the DA Form 250-1. The QA verified the numbers and sealed before after discharge. Before unloading the vessel is started, all level samples will be taken and each of the cargo tank will be examined. The gauge the temperature of water surrounding the cargo tank's visual will be taken and made with manner. For the record, figures will be compared with the obtained loading point. The QA will participate in key operations specified with loading operations as applied to the cargo. Discharge the QA will examine each of the cargo of the vessel, determine if any of the products remain for the area before the issuing a dry tank certificate. And that is the completion of quality assurance surveillance. Subcourse QM 581, Edition A, Managing Quality Assurance Surveillance, Army Institute Professional Development, Army Correspondence Course Program.